More than likely this Christmas season you have received Christmas cards with pictures of the Holy Family on the front. And they are beautiful pictures. They're ideal pictures. There is a family in peace, calm. There's no tension. There's no conflict. And I was thinking as I was looking at some of those pictures on Christmas cards that during the summertime there was a meeting at the Vatican, a synod about the family. And actually it was rather controversial because they were talking about how to minister to homosexual members of the family of God, of the church, and how to minister to divorced and remarried members of this family. And also talked about the relationship of folks with the church. And so it did cause a little bit of difficulty because we really don't talk about these issues too much. And the question was basically, how do we be open and welcoming to homosexual folks and divorced and remarried folks, but still stand for marriage at the same time? Well, families have asked and answered these questions for years on their own. And so essentially the question for us is, how do we deal with all kinds of different family structures that we see today? I have members of my family, and I'm sure you have members of your family that are gay, that are straight, that are married, that are divorced and remarried. But they're all loved, and they're all valued and cared for. For example, I have a gay husband, and everybody knows, but nobody talks about it. And the reason nobody talks about it is because she's the same person she's always been. And so there's really no reason for us to get all crazy and upset, even though some people do. Nobody rejects her because of it. She's the same person we've always loved and cared for. And so what if someday they decide to get married? Would we go to the wedding? And for some people that would tear them apart. But essentially we would say, sure, we would go, because you always support the one you love. And then also, there are people in my family, and I'm sure you have people in your family as well, who are divorced and then remarried to another person. And we know the pain that these folks have gone through in their first marriage, and we should rejoice in the joy that they find once again. And so some might say once again, well, if they get married, we can't show up, we can't go. Certainly, we would rather that they go through the annulment process and get married in the Catholic Church, but in families, once again, you support people no matter what. And so you always stand with them, love them, and care for them. And then that same synod was talking about church relationships and family. And as I was looking around my family party on December the 21st, I realized there were some people who go to church every single week. There are some who are Creasters, Christmas and Easter people. And then there are some who never go at all. And they've all been raised in church, but they've decided for whatever reason not to go anymore. And so what we do is to pray for them, to invite them, and hope they accept that invitation someday. Remember, in the Gospels, Jesus never forces anybody to do anything. He invites them, leaves that invitation to them. And he did watch some people turn their backs and leave him. And that must have been painful for him. But at the same time, he always leaves that invitation with the person. They have to respond themselves. And so there are differences in families of all kinds. And some of those differences are really difficult to negotiate. I think of the different generations that I have in my own family, of the different attitudes, certainly different politics, and then different racial attitudes, all kinds of different stuff. All kinds of different people united together by blood. And even though they are all very, very different with different ideas and attitudes, they are all really, really good people. So I think of the differences in generations based on this story. My cousin Maureen told me that she was going to Lollapalooza, which is the concert in Chicago during the summertime. And I checked out all the list of the bands that are playing. I didn't recognize any of the bands. And now I realize that the music I listened to is now called classic rock, or even worse, oldies, which really upsets me tremendously. And then there's all kinds of other generational differences as well. I went to go visit my dad, who lives down in Florida. He doesn't play golf, but I do. So I went golfing with some of his friends. And on the way home, they asked me, "So John, do you like to listen to Rush?" I'm like, "Rush? Sure. That great band out of Canada in the 1970s. Spirit of Radio, the 2112 album, great music." No, they were talking about Rush Limbaugh. So they turned up Rush Limbaugh as far as it could go. First and only time I've ever listened to Rush Limbaugh. So for us, how do we make our families into holy families? Well, I would submit that already our families are holy families in a lot of different ways. First of all, our relatives, our family members, are God's gift to us. Might not seem that way sometimes, but they are God's gift to us, and they are to be respected, loved, cared for. It is a challenge sometimes to see God's presence in them, but it is there. We have a holy family because all of the family members that we have are loved by God and cared for by Him. And so we pray this morning for God to guide them and protect them each day. We also pray for a spirit of patience, humility, and especially reconciliation. I don't know about you, but I have family members that never come to any celebrations at all. Some are angry, some are hurt, and they find the family structure, family party, a very, very tough thing. I think of one cousin who I never see. I was telling somebody that actually she belongs to Mensa. So maybe because she's so smart, she's smart enough not to hang around with us. Maybe that's it. But it is painful at the same time for my aunt and uncle to know that she'll never come to family parties, and she feels bad about it, but she won't come. Also, lost a family member to drugs and alcohol. We don't know where he is right now, and that's a very, very tough thing. So think about your families this morning with a spirit, first of all, of gratitude. Give thanks for them. But also there may be some pain there as well. Ask God to comfort that pain. Is there a person in your family that you don't talk to? Is reconciliation possible? If it is, try to pursue it. If not, pray for them and maybe even send them a card around this Christmas time, letting them know that you're praying for them and pulling for them. Is there somebody suffering in your family? Pray that God touches their heart and heals them of whatever they're suffering in. So essentially, the idea this morning when we pray as a church for the Holy Family is all pretty simple. This morning we call our families to mind. We pray for them, we give thanks for them, and we remember them. And we ask for ourselves the grace to be open to all people in our families so that we can truly be united with one another.